In this video, we will learn more about the basic concepts of arrays. Let's first think about a simple variable. If we had to try to visualize a variable, we will visualize it as a single placeholder that stores some value. And that value could be of type integer, real, char, string, boolean. And those values are stored in a placeholder that can store only a single value. An array, on the other hand, think of it as a number of variables that are next to each other. These variables put together form an array. And let's assume the name of this array is ARR. The question then is, how do I differentiate one of these cells from the other? The way we differentiate them is through the position. So each cell has a position in the array, and I can store a particular value within each position of the array. Like that. So the array is made up of three parts. One, that's the name of the array. The second part refers to the position. And the third part is the actual contents. That's the contents of the array. Let's look at how we go about declaring an array. In the variable section, you will then give the array some name. Let's look at this particular declaration here. So the name of this array is called ARR3, colon. For a variable, we would normally say integer, but for an array, we use the reserved word array. We specify the number of cells that the array will have. In this case, 1.100, that's a range. It will have 100 cells. And the type of value that it will be holding is integer. When you declare an array, it can only store a single data type. So in this instance, the array is storing only integers. It has 100 cells. That means there are 100 positions. And each position will hold an integer value. Let's look at the second example. We are also declaring an array. This array has only 6 cells, and it also is storing integer values. How do I go about putting, for example, this 20? How would I put 20 into position 2 of this array ARR2? So when we need to put a value into it, you would then say ARR, which is the name of the array. The position we want to go to is 2, so we use square brackets, and then we give it the value, which in this case, I want to give it the value 20. So in terms of storing values, that is how we would go about storing values into an array. As we proceed with this section, you will see through the use of loops, it becomes very easy to store a value in each cell of the array. Two more declarations that I think we should look at. The first one here, it's like we had discussed just now, ARR1. Up to this point, we've declared the array. But the second part of it is where we are giving values to each cell in the array. You will see that this array has 5 cells and it's of type integer, and I'm putting these values into each cell in the array in order of cell 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In the second example, we're also declaring the array and initializing it at the same time. Here, the array is of type string. So you'll notice that when I initialize it, the values I'm giving it are between quotes because that is of type string. So this is regarding the declaration of an array. Let's look at how we would do basic input into an array. I've already indicated that whenever you need to make use of the array, the square brackets are used, which indicates the position in which the value that you are storing will be stored at that particular position. In this procedure, we are randomly generating numbers in the range 10 to 50. It's one less than this value. We're randomly generating a number in that range, and it is being stored in the array. So the use of a loop is used in this instance. The loop is running from 1 to 100. I'm working with array 3. So in array 3, we've got 100 cells. So I generate random numbers, and through the loop, we know that the I variable constantly changes. And as I is constantly changing, I'm going to the different positions in my array. Remember, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this case, it goes all the way up to 100. So as I changes, the first value of I would be 1. I'm generating a random number which is stored in position 1 of the array. So as the loop executes, each time a new random value is being generated, and it is being stored in a different position of I in the array. In the second example, a similar concept is being used. Here we are dealing with array 4. In all subsequent examples, I will now make use of array 4. Array 4 has 6 cells only of type integer. So in array 4, we are now inputting numbers into this array. Using an input box generates a string, and that is then converted into an integer, and that's being stored in our array I. This concept of a loop is being used again. So as I changes, when the different values that are being input from the keyboard are being stored in the different positions. I'll do this once and take you through the process. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is my array. The first value that I takes on will be 1, and ARR4, that's the name of this array. Position 1, that's the position 1. The user is going to enter a value, let's say 10. That's going to be converted into an integer and stored in position 1. Because it's a loop, it's going to go back up, and I from 1 now becomes 2. A second value is going to be input. Let's assume it's 20, converted into an integer. That's now stored at position 2, which is 20. And that loop continues to 3. And a third value will go into cell 3. And that continues 6 times. So the loop very nicely takes me to each position in the array. When using arrays, ask yourself a simple question. Do you need to go to each cell in the array? If your answer is yes, then you will always make use of a loop. If you want to output, again, let's ask the question. If I have an array, do I want to output all the values in the array? In most instances, yes, I do want to output all the values. Therefore, the loop comes in immediately from 1 to 6. I'm outputting in a rich edit. I'm doing a conversion because it stores integers. And there is my array square bracket I. Take note, you cannot output the array at one go by saying readout.lines.add and have array 4, attempting to output the entire array at one go. That cannot work. You have to output the array one cell at a time. Hence the loop.